Everybody's dead. I hear the loudest thunderclap I ever heard in my life. It turns out that thunderclap was the building collapsing.
Wow.
My parents are Holocaust survivors. So now my parents are survivors, and now I'm a survivor. I said, what do you mean everybody's dead? The rescue guy says, don't look down, don't look to your right. You don't want to see what's going on. I said, screw you, I'm looking. I need to know what's going on.
Welcome to another episode of Do It for the Clips. Today we have a very special guest. Today we have in the studio my good friend Steve Rosenthal. Steve Rosenthal is one of the survivors of the Champlain Tower collapse. He was one of the few who survived, and 98 people did not. Steve is 77 years old, and for most of his life wasn't really a big shul guy. But now he's the first guy in shul every single day. He's the life of our community. He's the life of the party. And Steve, I'm so excited for you to be here to really talk about your story in depth. Welcome.
Well, Zoe, thank you for the compliment. I must say, I appreciate that. Thank you very much.
Of course.
My story. You want to hear my story, or are you going to ask questions?
So I want to. You have a very interesting story, and obviously, you know, we'll get to the part about Champlain Towers and how you ended up in Brickell and involved in the community and all that. But I want to take it back because, tell us how you grew up, and then compare that sort of to your grandparents, because I think you have a very interesting background, and you have like a lot of lineage in your, you have a lot of yichus in your lineage, okay. I should say.
Okay. Well,
and so, where'd you give us the early days? Where'd you grow up?
I grew up in Baltimore. My parents are Lithuanian. They are Holocaust survivors, which is a miracle in itself. They are both were very frum. My father grew up in Slobodka, Lithuania. My mother grew up in a shtetl outside of Kovna. And they're the only survivors of my mother, a family of 12, my father, a family of 10. My father was a graduate of Yeshiva Slobodka. And if you've never heard of Yeshiva Slobodka, think of one of the great yeshivas in Europe, comparable to a Princeton or a Yale or a Harvard in America. And they were interned in the ghetto in Kovna. And when the Russians came in 1944, my father was taken to Dachau, my mother was taken to Shutguf. And probably the main reason how they survived is that they both had a trade. My father was a locksmith and had a hardware store, so he could work with his hands and tools, etc. And my mother was a seamstress. After the war, they met in a displacement camp. People were pinning notes up on a bulletin board, who's from this town, who's from this town, who's alive, and that's where they met. I was born in Germany after the war.
Wow.
And we immigrated. My father's uncle sponsored us, and we ended up in Baltimore, which is where my father's uncle was.
How old were you when you moved?
6 months.
You were 6
I was 6 months old. So I'm a Baltimore guy.
No sprachen?
No.
Okay.
No. I read a bisschen Yiddish, but my Deutsch, not so good.
Okay.
My parents, you got to remember now, my parents now are 40 years old when they came over.
Wow.
So their language was Yiddish.
Did your parents have family before this?
Well, they all died in the war. In the war, the only family they had was my father's uncle, who he never knew. He was just a sponsor. He was already 75, 80 years old when we came over.
Wow.
I met him one time.
Wow.
So my parents, got into a little grocery store to turn into a bigger food market, turned into a super food market. And they sent me, because they were working all the time, the food market was open 24/7. Might have been, as far as I know, the first food market, at least in the state of Maryland, that was open 24/7. And they sent me to Yeshiva Chafetz Chaim, is what it was called, in Baltimore. And it started at 8:30, and I got home at 5:30.
Sounds like yeshiva to me.
And let me tell you something. I still remember today, I was just thinking about it the other day. I would take the bus, the transit bus, from school, 5:30 at night in Baltimore in December is pitch black, and have to walk by myself maybe a mile to my home. Nowadays, that wouldn't happen. It just doesn't happen anymore. And the funny thing is that we have two members in our shul, the Rock Shul from Baltimore, and their father, Ari, and his father went to the same school as I did. I'm a little older than the father.
And Chofetz Chaim, for those that don't know, it's like a very religious school.
Absolutely.
Totally right. So were you growing up, like, did you have pays? Like,
No.
What was your religious level growing up?
The religious level growing up was my parents, because they had to work, weren't Shomer Shabbos by keeping the Shabbos.
So they didn't like necessarily give it up.
They didn't give it. We had a kosher home.
Okay.
We had 2 sets of dishes. We had 2 sinks. Rosh Hashanah, Yom Kippur, the stores were closed. Pesach, we had the seders, the whole 9 yards. But Shavuos, the stores were open. So they didn't go to shul on Shabbos or anything like that. I was going to yeshiva, but I'm like, 9, 10, 11, 12 years old. So that was my upbringing. I left yeshiva when I was after my bar mitzvah. And my bar mitzvah was a daytime bar mitzvah, but we had a group, they were called Greena. Greena was short for greenhorns. It was the immigrants that came over after the war. And we had this group, and all these Greenas were very successful. We had Dave Granite, who owned Yellow Cabs. We had Mr. Kaplan, who owned Maryland Chicken. We had other food market people. And we were the first ones. I was the first one that had the big bar mitzvah at Bluefeld Caterings. Oh, I can't remember. I'm remembering all this. It's unbelievable. And from there, I left
You must have got good presents.
I got Israeli bonds.
Israeli bonds? You cash them in yet?
That's another story.
We'll get there.
So I did leave the yeshiva, went to public school, and
You put the tefillin on the shelf.
put the tefillin on the shelf. Got a pair of tefillin, which is, we'll get to that in a minute, but I did get a pair of tefillin from my parents from my bar mitzvah with the talis.
Yeah.
And it was put on the shelf. You're right. Went to college, went to school, went to law school, and in 1973, Nixon, if we're talking about my past, gold was illegal for American citizens to own from 1933 to 1973. I don't know if you know that.
Gold.
Any coins. You had to turn it in.
But gold jewelry was fine.
Gold jewelry was fine, but no gold, no $10 gold pieces, no gold bullion. And people had a lot of gold because Nixon wanted to go off the gold standard so he could print dollars. Because being on the gold standard, for every dollar, there had to be $1 worth of gold.
Right.
So in 73, when he made it legal for American citizens to own gold, I became the second gold and silver dealer in the country. And we named the company was named Franklin, Shelley, and Dale. We named it Franklin because of Ben Franklin. Shelley was my partner's wife's name, and Dale was my wife's middle name. We didn't want to call it Rosenthal and Mazer. We thought that might have been a little too Jewish. And we were advertising in the Wall Street Journal. We had offices in Boston. We had offices in Atlanta. We had offices in D.C. and, of course, Baltimore.
Wow.
And we made a lot of money. We rode gold from like $35 an ounce to $330 an ounce.
Wow.
Now it got up to $5,000. But we're talking, 40, 50 years ago.
Right.
And we rode silver from $2 an ounce to the Hunt brothers that went at $50 an ounce. This is probably before your time. I don't know, you probably don't remember
Way before,
this.
but this is crazy.
Right. So we all made a lot of money. We bought a big estate out in the valley, had 3 acres. I bought a lawn mowing, a lawnmower that I could ride in. I did that twice and gave that up.
Yeah, someone
guy,
yeah.
just hired.
You're like, I'm too Jewish for this.
Right,
yeah.
right. My parents moved to Florida,
So you're cleaning up at this point. How old are you?
27, 28.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
Wow. And we sold it to a company called Deke Pereira in New York. They were huge. We were a retailer. They were the wholesaler. Okay. So we sold to them. We made a lot of money. And we ended up moving to Florida. And at that time, my father became very, very religious, went back to his Judaism. And then really the first person that he met, he was Rabbi Weberman. Rabbi Weberman was the first shluchim, is that how you pronounce it?
Shluchim, yeah.
Shluchim, that the Rebbe sent down to South Florida to open up the Chabad system.
Wow.
And he had a shul called Ohel Yaakov off of 71st Street in Miami Beach. My parents lived on 60th and Collins at the Maison Grande. And my father and another person would drive my father to the shul every morning to go to services and learn. Rabbi Weberman's a pretty famous guy. He was the guy that put up the Erev, is that what it's called? The string?
Yeah.
The string. And his kids started and they, were into the kosher food business. And they still are, but they do the kosher food for the airlines.
Interesting.
Right, very interesting. And Rabbi Weberman is the one that gave the eulogies for my mother and my father.
Wow.
Heavy hitter, he died about 2-3 years ago. I think he was like 100 years old.
Wow.
Even our rabbis here, Eli and Chaim, knew him. He was the real deal. He was before their uncle. He was here.
And so what were you feeling like looking at this transformation of your parents? Like, you grew up a certain way your whole life and you see them like becoming more religious. You're in your what, your 30s?
I'm in my 30s. I'm doing my thing.
And you're just like...
I'm in. If you're in Miami back at that time, it was a whole different world. Miami in those days was Miami Vice.
Cocaine cowboys.
Cocaine cowboys. It was a whole different world back then. My father was doing his thing at the Maison Grande. My mother was doing her thing.
Was everybody a drug dealer back then?
Pretty much. If you went to the dentist, you didn't have to pay with credit card. You pay by
brick?
Give me an 8-ball. Give me an 8-ball.
Are you kidding? Are you kidding me?
No, I swear to God.
That's literally how
Literally,
Miami...
you got an 8-ball? How good is it? If you needed a lawyer, I need a half an ounce or an ounce per hour.
No Apple Pay, no credit cards, no cash, just straight...
Cocaine was money. Cocaine was money like cigarettes is money in jail.
You're kidding me.
100%.
And it was just like done on the streets, like nobody cared?
You go into a restaurant and you would take out a couple lines of cocaine.
Are you kidding me?
And you would just snort it up while you were having dinner.
That's crazy.
In public.
At like Joe's Stone Crab.
Well, no, not Joe's, but at the Mutiny. It was insane. I think at one time they said, the Federal Reserve Board said, on every $100 bill that came in to the Federal Reserve Board that they were going to destroy, every single one of them had traces of cocaine in it. Because what they did was back then they rolled up the $100 bill and you would snort it with a $100 bill.
It's crazy.
I haven't seen a $100 bill in I don't know how long. But that's how it was back then.
That's crazy.
Back then.
So your father's getting more religious.
My father was getting more religious, and when he stopped going to, because he couldn't walk over there because he was 90% blind, he was in an accident. He started going to the Casa Blanca, which was only 2 blocks away, and the Casa Blanca was a dump. It was a hotel, but the shul was a dump. I hate to use that word, but that's what it was. It was a dump. But I had a minion, and I had the Altacockers from around the neighborhood that would show up. And my father said one day, we got to fix this place up. I mean, this is not right. So Sonny Khan would show up every once in a while. And Sonny Khan is the partners with Russell Galbert in Crescent Heights. And together they financed the redoing of the Casablanca shul. Rabbi Rotherman was the rabbi, And my father went to shul there 3 times a day and learned the daf there. And all my father did at home at that time was he'd get the tapes. In those days, you'd get the tapes. He'd send to New York. They would send him down a month worth of tapes of the daf of the day. And he'd go around with the earplugs, not the earplugs, but, in his ear, and just listen to the daf. And he was a pretty learned guy. I mean, remember, he's coming from Yeshiva Slobodka. And I didn't realize it, but researching and looking at Yeshiva Slobodka, you had to get accepted. You had to pass a test.
Yeah.
I mean, it was some serious stuff. And there is chemistry between Yeshiva Slobodka and Chabad. And I mentioned it at the sermon, at the speech that I gave last week, how Chabad was, in the 1700s, was moving east. And then when they hit Lithuania, the Vilna Gaon, who was the most respected and like the Moses Maimonides of his day, thought Chabad was like some cult, and they didn't respect and didn't agree with the Chabad. And my father was a Vilna Gaon guy. That's what and actually, how yeshivas started, there was chayders at that time. There were schools of learning, but there were really no yeshivas. And how the yeshiva system started was because of the Vilna Gaon not agreeing with the Chabad way of education. So he started his own form of learning by starting yeshivas.
Wow.
Very interesting.
Very.
And Yeshiva Slobodka still exists in Bnei Barak. And here's a little tidbit that I didn't mention. So my father started collecting money, for Yeshiva Slobodka every year. Sonny Khan helped him with that. He was very generous. And the Rosh Hashiva, is that what this is, the Rosh Hashiva, the head of Yeshiva Slobodka in Bnei Barak, would come to America every year. He would go to 3 cities, Montreal, New York, and Miami Beach. And when he came to Miami Beach, he'd always come to my father, obviously because he wanted to collect the money. But there was a time in the late 80s where the Rosh Hashiva said to my father, he was the last graduate of Yeshiva Slobodka still alive in Miami Beach.
Wow.
Wow. Now, there were other Slobodka people, but not graduates of Yeshiva Slobodka in Miami Beach. There were some probably, I think, still in Israel, and there might have been one in Montreal.
Wow. Which
was pretty amazing. That was heavy duty.
Crazy. So your parents are going through this religious transformation. You're still doing your thing. How'd you end up in Miami Beach?
I ended up in Miami Beach because of a girl.
Surfside.
Because of a girl.
Okay.
I met a girl, and she had moved to Miami, and fell in love with her. And next thing I know, all right, my parents are down there. Miami's Miami. It's Miami Vice. What else,
This is like the 90s.
It was, no, this is 70s.
Oh, 70s. We're still in the 70s, yeah.
And the winters in Baltimore were brutal.
Oh, yeah.
And we went through a 10, 20-year stretch that were brutal. So it's time to get out. Ended up coming to Miami and ended up moving to Kendall with my wife. And we moved to Kendall. Kendall at that time is where all the young Jewish people moved to.
Really?
Yeah, it was all
Kendall
Jewish.
was a Jewish neighborhood.
All Jewish.
In the 70s.
In the 70s.
Wow.
All Jews. That was the area.
Really?
Where all Jews went, and there was a huge...
Not Miami Beach.
Miami Beach was for old people.
Old people.
Old people.
Alta-Cocker
Jews.
Holocaust survivors.
All Alta-Cockers.
Okay.
All right.
But all Jews.
All Jews. I mean, obviously, it was a mix. I would say 80% Jewish.
80% Jewish.
I would think.
Wow.
Kendall was probably 75% Jewish.
Wow.
Young. And there were hot places to go to and families. Okay, it was mostly the married. If you got married, you moved to Kendall. Kendall had a huge shul on Miller Road, which I became a member of. But it's just Rosh Hashanah, Yom Kippur. And the in-laws would come down, and we all went to that show. I'm really getting into it here. Bringing back some memories.
Yeah.
Anyway, got divorced, like everybody else.
Been there.
And became single, and did the single scene in Miami, and went to work for a company called Playbill. Playbill is the program that you get when you go into a Broadway show.
Right.
Okay, you get the thing. So I worked for them. I became vice president of Playbill.
Wow.
And I was doing the advertising, and that was a great job. I mean, you got to see all the Broadway shows, and we had great seats. And the owner of Playbill became one of the original partners in the Miami Heat. So he had floor seats. Okay. So, of course, being the #1 salesperson of Playbill, I got access to those floor seats a lot of times. And that's where I met a lot of the people, because they all wanted to know, because I'd always bring a pretty girl as my date. And people would always go, who's this guy sitting on the floor?
Who's this guy in the floor
This is before the days of Jay-Z and, DJ Khaled and, whatever. Who's these guys sitting on the floor over there, okay? So that's where I got to meet a lot of people in Miami Beach. And at that time, it was the resurrection of South Beach. And I was also working for a guy. It's kind of like in between here. I'm going back and forth.
Yeah.
Who was a friend of Donnie Sofers from Pittsburgh, who was the builder of Aventura. Now, this guy was a jukebox and cigarette guy. I think he was a mob guy from Pittsburgh, Jewish though. And I put in all the jukeboxes and cigarette machines in the hotels on Ocean Drive and in the restaurants. The Clevelander, the Boulevard, I can't remember them all, but
Delano?
I put them in.
Delano?
No, Ocean Drive.
Oh, Ocean Drive.
Ocean Drive. Delano had, was
Betsy?
Betsy. The Betsy wasn't called it was called the Betsy, but it wasn't, it was, I can't remember the name.
Okay, yeah.
Okay.
All good.
And that's where I got to meet a lot of the restaurant people.
That's how you know everybody.
Right, that's where I got to know everybody.
And so on restaurants, I want to pause you because this is a great thing you taught me. You when I moved to Miami, you're like, you taught me one thing very important here, which is the people you tip really well every time. Tell us about how you get the best treatment at like the spots you go to.
Well, it's real simple. I get the best spots because you give out gelt. There's no secret to that. You walk into a place and then say, "Hey, we're busy. We got no room for you." Well, how does a 20 or does that help you? How's a 50? I mean, sometimes you got to give 100. Very rarely you got to give 100. 50 was like top of the line. But you get through the red velvet rope with a 20 or a 50. You either give it up front or you give it in the backside.
But you would like always tip the manager, like no matter what, right?
Even if I knew him.
Right.
Even if I knew him, I'm always giving a 20 on the way out, just to make sure he remembers me the next time. Because, there's a lot of people going through.
Yeah.
So, they got to remember you.
Yeah.
And I just felt that they work hard. They're standing out there, looking to make sure people get through. So I'm always tipping people, You have to.
Absolutely.
So you're
around the Miami scene. How do you end up in Surfside, in Champlain?
Well, I ended up in Surfside after the second divorce.
Okay. Mazel tov.
After the second divorce, looking for a place to live. I had been renting before. And
what year is this?
I was renting, where was I? At the Hamilton.
Okay.
To Hamilton. And I had always owned my own place, whether it was a house or a condo. My parents had passed away. I had sold the Maison Grande and looking for a place. And actually, Robert's wife, who's a member of the shul, found me a place at Surfside, at the Champlain Towers. Thank God I took the unit that I ended up buying, because the other unit is the one that fell.
Wow.
We'll get into that. So I'm in Surfside, and I love Surfside. It's on the beach. One thing good about Champlain Towers and in Surfside, it was right at it's the first building in Surfside. So it was 5 minutes to Bell Harbor.
Interesting.
Okay.
Nothing else around you.
Well, it's the first building on Collins Avenue in Surfside.
Really?
Across from the tennis courts.
Okay.
On the ocean. if you needed to go to South Beach or whatever, you didn't have to go through the traffic in Surfside or anything like that.
Okay.
You just made the U-turn.
But all the other buildings, just like there
Other
was
buildings
nothing there.
or other buildings are there, but now you may hit traffic. Champlain Towers, that wasn't a problem.
Wow.
Okay, and the Shoal is the Shoal and Bell
This
Harbor.
was this like the hot development back in the day?
No, Surfside was already 20 years old. The building was already 20 years old.
Got it.
When I moved in there, but just relatively a new building. I mean, it's not an old building.
Right.
And it was a mix, mostly Jewish, a lot of Cuban Jews.
What'd you pay for the apartment?
I paid $200,000.
$200,000 for a 2-bedroom
2-bedroom, 2-bath.
on the beach.
On the beach, 1,580
Ocean
square
view.
feet, two balconies.
And what year was this?
2001, a month before 9/11.
Wow.
A month before 9/11, August of 2001.
Oh my God.
And it was wonderful. It was great. I mean, Surfside was great. It was a great building. Life was good. I was working for a company called IGT that came down from New York that was in the media business. They courted me away from Playbill because Playbill, the only thing you could sell was Playbill. IGT was a different type of company. They had media, they had radio, they had TV, they had newspapers, they had magazines, they had billboards. And if you didn't want media, they'd say, hey, I'll give you cash. And they would pre-buy the menu with 50 cents on the dollar. So it was a home run. So I got into that business. And I've been there and I'm still there. More on a semi-retired basis. I'm not out there knocking on doors, but I was like their number one guy for 20, 25 years. I probably did, I don't know, maybe a couple thousand restaurants in Miami Beach.
So you really know everyone here.
I would like to think that IGT was very responsible for the resurrection of Miami Beach because they financed the restaurants either in cash or they financed it in advertising, and they paid us in food and beverage.
Right.
That's how they paid us back.
Right.
On top of that, I was able to finance and do the advertising for a lot of the condominiums. I did it for the Continuum, for the Satai, for the Waverly, for the Bath Club, to name a few, and they paid us in condos. So we gave them the billboards, the sides of buses, and they paid us in condominiums. So we did pretty good.
Wow.
So now I'm in Surfside one night.
And up until this point, you never really had any issues with the building. There weren't like any real concerns.
I hear about it afterwards, but I never saw anything. People ask me, well, didn't you see flooding in the garage? I said, yeah, when it was a full moon and it was a high tide, there would be some flooding, but that's in every building.
Right.
Okay, I mean, it was no big deal. It wasn't like there was, I had to put rubber boots on to get to my car.
And you were there how many years?
I was there 20 years.
20 years.
20 years.
20 years in this building.
For 20 years. So, I mean, I didn't see like any cracks in the wall or anything like that.
What was your HOA? What was your like monthly maintenance fee?
I think it started at 400 and went up to 800 over the 20-year period. Remember, I got a 2-bedroom, 2-bath on the ocean.
Right.
Right. And you got to fix things up. We fixed the balcony. We put new elevators in. We put a new lobby in. We put a new pool
So they
in.
were doing assessments
like any other building.
Right.
Like any other building. So.
And the board was fine.
The board was fine. I mean, there's always problems with the board. I didn't go to the meetings or anything like that. I think they went to one meeting.
You just weren't interested.
It was, we had a property manager. We had maintenance people that took care of things. We did a paint job. We painted the building. We had, it was fine.
Fine.
It was fine. To me, it was fine.
Right.
And then one night,
5 years ago.
5 years ago, June 24, I think it is. June 24, 2021. I'm sleeping. It's about 1:15 in the morning. And I hear the loudest thunderclap I ever heard in my life. It woke me up. I've heard thunder before, but I never heard it like this. And I said to myself, and I remember this distinctly, all right, it's Miami. It's June, it's summertime. we got a big storm coming in. There's a big thunder.
Maybe lightning hit the building.
No big deal. It turns out that thunderclap was the building collapsing. I didn't know that at that moment.
That was the
noise
breaking.
That was the building collapsing.
Oh my God.
That thunderclap was the building collapsing. Okay.
So it wasn't like shaking, or if it was, it didn't.
What I did was I got up, it's a storm coming, went back to bed, puffed my pillow, turned over, went back, and then all of a sudden the bed started to spin. I started to spin. Now I'm thinking I'm dreaming because you fall back to sleep like that, and I'm saying, all right, well maybe I'm in a earthquake in San Francisco. Cool dream, bed spinning and I'm moving, and then stuff from the ceiling starts to fall down, and I'm feeling it. Now I'm going, okay, something's up, and I get up out of bed, and I'm saying, something happened, and I'm saying, is it an earthquake? But Florida doesn't get earthquakes. But every 10,000 years, we can get an earthquake. And as a matter of fact, we had a little earthquake a couple of weeks ago, more towards Cuba, but people did feel it in South Florida. So we can get it, but nothing like that. So I run out to the living room, and I go to the window, living room window, to see. Can't see a thing. It's all dust, cloudy, can't see a thing. I go to the kitchen door to open it up, and I get slammed with all the dust and dirt and everything. It knocks me back against the kitchen wall. Okay, it just came rushing at me. And I heard my neighbor say, help me, get me out. And they were an elderly couple, very religious, that had just donated a Torah to the Chabad in Chicago, where they were from. Now, what am I going to do? Their door is locked. They're fire doors. You can't get in there. And what had happened was, when the dust had cleared, I had seen that the ceiling from the had totally collapsed. Now I'm thinking, because they had redone the roof, and they had brought all these gallons or jars of tar, like hundreds of them, and they planted it on the roof, and they're tarring the roof a couple of weeks before. I'm thinking the roof collapsed, and it went from the 12th floor to the 11th floor but I'm just thinking the roof. Okay, so I got to the 7th floor. I'm going, okay, this is pretty serious, but it's a roof. Now I go out to the balcony. Now I look to see if I can get out. I can't get out. I'm stuck. Everybody that was behind, I have a picture, but everybody that was behind where the roof had collapsed died. I go out to the balcony, and I'm seeing one fire engine, two fire engines, 10, 20, 30. It must have been 100.
And you still have no clue what's going on.
I got no clue what's going on. I'm still thinking the roof had just collapsed. And then the lady on top of me, the one over on top of me, says to me, everybody's dead. I said, what do you mean everybody's dead? She says, I looked out. When she opens up her front door, she sees the elevator. When she did it at that moment, she saw the ocean. That means that building had collapsed. The back of the building had collapsed. And I'm going, okay, now it's serious. Now I don't know what to do, but now when I rush, I'm going, somehow I got to get out of the building, or somebody's going to rescue me. So I get a Neiman Marcus big shopping bag. I put my jeans on, my shoes, my pants, and I put some clothes in a bag, some underwear, another pair of jeans, some shoes, my computer, my iPhone, my iPad. I get my wallet, my credit card, things that I need, whatever I can fit into the shopping bag, because I'm figuring that's all I'm going to be able to take. I don't have time to pack a suitcase or anything. And I'm on the 7th floor on the corner. Now, on the corner units, the Champlain Towers didn't collapse. The front of the building didn't collapse. So it's about 2.5 hours the fire rescue comes, and they rescued me off my balcony into what's called a cherry picker.
2 hours there.
2 hours,
and
maybe
you must
longer.
be nervous the whole time.
Well,
Do you
I don't
think the
know. At
building's
what
coming
point is the
down?
building going to come down? Right. The
Right.
front of the building going to come down.
Right.
We're stuck.
You have no idea.
No idea. No idea. Probably the scariest moment that for me was when I'm on the cherry picker. Now remember, I'm on the cherry picker on the 7th floor, and it's rescuing people. And the guy says, the rescue guy says, don't look down, don't look to your right. You don't want to see what's going on. I said, screw you, I'm looking, I need to know what's going on. And I see what had happened, I'm going, building's done, that's it. I mean, I could see all the damage. And looking at the front of the building as we're going down was, to me, was the scariest, because I'm saying to myself, now it's 2.5 hours later, when's the front of the building going to collapse on all of us? And I'm feeling bad for this rescue guy.
Right, because it was just this small little
It's
section.
like this far, right?
It could
It
have
was
easily just...
And 100%, I'm thinking this building's going to collapse on us. All I wanted to do was touch the ground. And when we touched the ground, I just ran to across the street to an empty grassy knoll where there was rescue people taking our names and everything. And we're just looking at it in amazement. I mean, we're all shocked, we're stunned.
How many survivors are you there with?
There were 37 rescued survivors. There are other people that lived at Champlain that weren't there.
But that were in the building that were rescued.
That were in the building were 37. There were a couple people that escaped, but only 37 were rescued. Okay. And there were guests that were there. 98 people died. Like my best friends, the Epsteins, died. That's a tragic story because they were snowbirds. And actually, he was the CEO of First Service. And if you know what First Service is the company that represents a lot of the high-rise, that does the maintenance and, runs the buildings, like the St. Regis and
Building
all that.
management.
And I always asked him, what are you doing living at Champlain Towers? You should be living at the Four Seasons. Nothing wrong with Champlain Towers, but when you're the CEO, of First Service, you should be in a $15 million place at the Four Seasons. So you just like the quiet. Okay. He had a gorgeous 2-bedroom, 2-bath. He was a snowbird. He gave me his parking spot because he had a primo parking spot. And he was gone. Anyway, he ends up buying the penthouse. So he stays in Miami with the interior decorator an extra week to decorate his penthouse. That week, the building falls. He's oceanfront. Him and his wife die. He should have been back in New York.
Wow.
He was never in Miami at that time.
Wow.
He was one of the first persons to get a Tesla. And the police had called me up and asked me about his Tesla. I said, well, why would you want to know about his Tesla? Why would I even know about his Tesla? He says, because when you have a Tesla, they said, they have like a video. And they wanted to see what happened to the garage via his Tesla and the video.
Did they get
I don't
the
know
video?
if they did or not,
Wow.
but that's what the police told me.
Wow.
Yeah, which I found very interesting. I didn't know they had a video or why was it on or anything like that. Well, it might have been on because he was there.
Right.
Okay.
Wow. Okay. So you're across the field, 3 o'clock in the morning.
Stunned.
So and what are you doing at this point? Like, where do you go? Everything you have is gone. Your
Everything
car,
I was gone except what I got in my bag. And where do I go? Who do I go to?
In one moment, you're homeless.
I'm homeless. So my
And you
neighbor
owned your apartment outright,
owned it outright.
You didn't, there's no real insurance. Like, are you thinking about insurance at
Not
this
at that point.
You're not even thinking
No. At that point, I'm going, where am I sleeping tonight? Where am I going? What's you don't know what's going on.
Right.
Okay. So now my neighbor says, listen, my kids are going to come and they're going to pick us up. Wherever you want us to drop you off, we'll drop you off. We're going to Kendall. Now, Surfside to Kendall, I could get to Philadelphia faster. Okay, that's how far it is. So I said, drop me off at my friend Tony's place. Tony lived off of 71st Street. Now, this is 4:30 in the morning. They drop me off. I walk up the driveway, disheveled, with a Neiman Marcus bag And the security guy looks at me like I'm crazy. Okay, he says, where are you going? Says, I need to go to see my friend Tony. Can we knock on her door? He goes, why? I says, because my building collapsed. He goes, he goes, what? You don't know what's
sounds crazy.
I said, listen, my building collapsed, and you could see the red from where he was. You could see like it was almost like a sunset or a sunrise.
The fire.
Yeah, that you could see, like the burning. I didn't notice it till I was over there. So we go up and we start knocking on Tony's door, but it's 4 a.m, so you can't pound on it. And I'm calling her and calling her. She's got her phone on mute. So I said, listen, can I at least sleep on or hang out here in the lobby on the sofa? And when she gets up at 7, 8 o'clock, she gets me in. Somehow, some way, she answers her phone. I said, my building collapsed. I'm in the lobby. She don't know what's going on. It's 4:30 in the morning. She comes down, gets me. We turn on the TV, and Channel 7 was there. Now, it's still dark, but they're talking about what has gone on. And at that point, they say 150 people were missing.
You were missing at this point.
No. I remember when I hit the ground, and I went over to that grassy part,
they took
my name.
Okay.
So I wasn't missing. Everybody that's looking, standing around, there was, I don't know how many of us, but everybody's name was, was registered. But there was 150 that were missing. They might have been out for the night, or it could have been in New York or wherever. They were missing. So, stunned. I mean, you don't know what to do, what to say. I mean, you don't know what's happening. You don't know how you're feeling. But now I'm starting to realize that the Epsteins are gone because they're oceanfront. My next door neighbors, my people, the Levins are gone. And tears start to fall. They just fall naturally. I mean, I was lucky that I didn't have any children or kids or girlfriend or wife or anybody with me. It was just me. Most other people had family members with them and whatever. So it was a horrific. And then we went on with the insurance. Now what do? Thank God I had insurance. If you're living in Florida, you need insurance because of the hurricane. So I was like the first one at the insurance company, literally the first one.
The next day.
And I showed them pictures because I had homeowners, I had this, I had that, and I showed them pictures that I had taken for hurricanes of what my living room looked like, what my kitchen looked like, my clothes, all that stuff, so it could be documented. Showed it all to them. And within 2 or 3 days, I had gotten the check. Problem was I still had a mortgage on the condo. So they couldn't give me a check for the value of the condo. What you had to do, which I didn't know, and nobody knew, that if you have a mortgage on a property and something happens, on page 38, paragraph 7, line 4, it says, what we'll do is, if you owe X amount of dollars to the mortgage company, and you need to replace your bathroom, send us how much it's going to cost to replace the bathroom. We will then send you a check for that amount. So now they want to piecemeal me a check. They want to piecemeal me a check for the cost of the bathroom, for the cost of the kitchen, for the cost of the living room. That's how it works. Okay. Well, the building is collapsed. Okay. So there was no piecemealing or anything. And on July 4th, there's 2 days. There's June 24th and there's July 4th. On July 4th, Miami-Dade imploded the building. They wouldn't let any of us back in to collect anything because what they were afraid of is that if one person went in and the building collapsed on that one person, Miami-Dade could be on the hook for God knows how much money. So the building's imploded. So I'm saying to the insurance company, there was no kitchen to fix. There's no bathroom to repair. It's all gone. Well, when they sell the property and they get the monies, and we'll give you the money. Well, that could be 2 years or 5 years. Well, I hemmed and hawed and hemmed and hawed, and I called this one up and called this one up, and I called the senator up, Senator Pizio. And Pizio called them up and said, listen, if you don't give Steve Rosenthal the money that he's owed, I'll make sure you can't do business in the state of Florida. All right? That's how cool he was. And within a week, I had the check. And this was Caliber Home Loans, and I'm promoting them because what they did was they took up a donation in their firm in Texas and sent me a check for $5,000 extra that they raised from their employees.
Wow.
Wow, is right. That was amazing, okay? So, Caliber was the best.
Wow.
Right.
Amazing.
Amazing.
And so you're watching the building come down. It's being imploded. You know all your stuff is in there.
Everything is gone.
Right, and you can't.
You name it, everything is gone.
Right.
And the only thing, and I told Tony, my friend, the only thing I wish that I would have taken would have been my Tollicent film.
You're already saying this at this point.
I'm saying this to Tony.
Right.
I'm not saying this as I'm looking out there at the moment.
Right.
But I said to Tony, the only thing I wish that I would have taken that I had thrown into the bag would have been my Tollicent film that my parents
Not
gave
that
me.
you wore it ever.
Never. But I'd always taken it wherever I went. And wherever I went, I just put it in a corner.
Right.
It was just in a corner. And I knew it was there. I didn't put it in a drawer. I put it somewhere where it was out that I could see it, but not in the kitchen table or anything. Right. All right. So now, and I said to Tony, I wish I would have taken my Tollicent film. So now, Michael Capone of GEM, Global Empowerment Mission, without him, I don't know how we would have made it. He came to where Tony's house, condo, the next morning and said, Steve, I'm going to give you a $500 Visa card, buy whatever you need. I'm going to take care of all you guys. And what he did was he helps people that are in tragedies, hurricanes, tornadoes. And this was his first one in Miami. And I really think that this was national news. This was big time. I mean, I remember getting calls from news medias in Russia going, buildings in Miami Beach don't collapse. Not 12-story buildings in Surfside, 6 blocks from Bell Harbor. They don't collapse. This was national news. As a matter of fact, they took a poll and they went, what were the biggest national news stories of 2021? Number 2 was the Surfside collapse. Let me see if you can know what the number 1 story was.
I don't remember.
January 6th.
Oh, well,
Okay.
that was a pretty big one.
That's a pretty big one. Okay. We're number 2 after January 6th.
Wow.
Okay. So.
And so you get a call around this time, right?
I get a call. So now, Michael had helped us and he gave us credit cards and and he put me into a hotel. And I'm in a hotel and about a week or 2 into the hotel. I remember the building had imploded. The back of the building is just full of rubble and trash and all kind of stuff. And I get a call from the police department going, we found something of yours in the rubble. What'd you find of mine? We found your Tollicent film. I said, you found my Tollicent film? He says, yeah, it's got your name, S. Rosenthal. And they sent me a picture of it, okay, with my talus and the strings hanging out. And he says, we can't give it back to you because it could be contaminated, okay, because of different freon and, who knows what kind of stuff was in the building. I said, this is amazing that the one thing that I wanted, I didn't want this chair or this or that. I wanted my Tollicent film. They found my Tollicent film. And I was happy as go lucky. I mean, it really, that made everything for me. After that, Europa.
You didn't feel like what were you feeling inside?
Well, what was happening was, let me backtrack a little bit. Okay, the fact that I survived that was a miracle. And the shul in Bell Harbor okay, helped a lot. And when I was at the hotel that they put us up in Surfside, Rabbi Katz had come, found me, and I was just walking in the hallways and said, "Did you lay your tefillin today?" And I said, "Yeah, I laid tefillin." And he just put the tefillin on me.
You didn't even have a chance to say no.
No, I didn't have a chance. You know how they grab you.
They just
have a chance,
got
right?
you quick.
Right. They just grab you.
Was this the first time you were putting on tefillin?
Tefillin, probably since being in shul with my father
50
10 years
years
before or whatever.
Yeah, wow. Okay.
Yeah. Maybe the third time in since my bar mitzvah that I'm putting on tefillin. And of course, I needed some help, but I had a basic idea of how to put it on. And I knew the Shema, you know, because that's something you kind of remember most of your life. So now I'm not laying tefillin yet, but I go to the shul in Bell Harbor because everybody's giving out credit cards. And the shul in Bell Harbor is giving out credit cards. So I go to the shul in Bell Harbor, they got another $500 or $1,000 worth of credit cards to give out, Visa, MasterCard, buy whatever you need. And of course, Rabbi Katz goes, puts tefillin on me again. He says, "I'm going to give you this pair of tefillin, but you have to promise me that you're going to lay tefillin every day." And I promised him that I would lay tefillin every day. And that's where it started, that I started to lay tefillin every day.
Did you agree that you would lay tefillin before the police called you, or this was after the police called you?
Before the police called me.
No way.
Before.
I didn't know that.
Before.
I thought you got this great miracle from God, and you're like,
No.
God, I got the message.
That was the miracle, but I was already laying
You
tefillin.
already agreed.
I was laying tefillin in the hotel room.
Oh my God. And then a few days later, you're already putting on tefillin
I'm already
every
putting
day.
on tefillin by myself, not going to shul or
And
anything.
you just get the direct
and
message.
I get the thing.
Oh my God.
Right.
That must have been like God.
I'm just saying, it's like, wow.
And then you end up,
So now I end up,
you say, I don't want to live on the beach anymore.
I don't want to live on the beach anymore.
You're afraid.
I'm over it. I don't want to be on a building on the sand. I'm not buying a house. I got to find a place to live because I'm in the hotel for 2 months. And the one thing I can say was, thank God, if the building was going to fall, you want it to fall in the summertime because the hotel rooms are empty. Because if it would have fallen in December, there's no way you're getting into a hotel.
And also the building would have been a lot more full.
Yeah, no question about it. So let me just backtrack a little bit. So while this is going on, we're in a hotel. President Biden comes down to visit us, and he comes to a room, and we're all in a room at the St. Regis in their ballroom, and everybody that had anything to do with Champlain Towers were in different tables.
Families, rescue,
Families, whatever.
everyone.
And Biden and his wife came down. The mayor was there. Debbie Wasserman-Schultz was there. DeSantis was there. Rubio was there. But it was basically Joe Biden. And Joe Biden went around to every table, shook hands and talked to every person. And no matter if you wanted to talk to him for 15 minutes, he took the chair next to you and listened to what you had. It was amazing, literally amazing. As opposed to the other politicians, they gave you 2 or 3 minutes. I'm not saying they were rude by any stretch, but they didn't give you 15, 20 minutes. So now Joe Biden comes over to my table, and I have the picture of the inside of my floor of the collapse of the building and the video. Now that picture got in one CNN or USA Today, and I showed the picture to Joe Biden. He says, I saw that picture. I go, wow, you saw my picture? He goes, yeah. And I didn't think much of it. He says, let me have your phone number. I give him my phone number. I'll put it on a piece of paper, puts it in his pocket. Okay. Yeah, I don't know. I'm dressed in a T-shirt that I picked up somewhere and a pair of pants. I don't even know what I'm wearing. I look like Drek, okay? So meanwhile, my car got crushed, obviously, in the collapse.
Yeah.
So I need a new car. So here I am getting a new car. And we did the advertising for Tropical Chevrolet.
Right.
And they were nice enough to give me, for free, a brand new 2021 Chevy Trailblazer.
Wow.
Okay? Gorgeous car. Still have it. Okay? For Brickell, it's perfect.
Yep.
Okay? I only got 4,000 miles on it because I don't drive it anywhere.
Borrow it once.
So I'm in the finance room filling out the papers. I get a phone call, says the White House. And I show it to the girl, Sylvia's her name, I'll never forget. She says, Sylvia, the White House is calling me, okay? And she's like freaking out too. He goes, hi, is this Steve Rosenthal? I said, yeah. So listen, this is an advisor to President Biden, and he wants to know if you're okay and if there's anything you would like or anything you would like to ask the president. I'm going, this is amazing. So I said, very nice of the president to call and ask about me. And the one thing I would like to say, if it's possible, is that I think that the property where Champlain Towers stood, 8777, should be turned into a park, a memorial park. The property needs to be sold, okay? People need to get whole on their investment, but no building should arise from that property. Because there were people going, it shouldn't even be sold. And we were very upset. The survivors were very upset about that because, hey, we need to get our lives back together.
Right.
She says, I'll let the president know about that. That was pretty much the end of it.
Yeah, that didn't
That
happen.
was pretty much the end
And
of it.
so just like fast forward for 1 second. So now someone did buy it. They did announce a building. They're starting construction on it. And what's going on with that building?
That building was bought by a Dubai developer. Okay, originally it was going to be a Cavalli building, Roberto Cavalli, designer, because that's a big thing now. Armani building, Dolce & Gabbana building, this was going to be a Cavalli building. I think Cavalli died, he took his name off of it, or whatever. Now the building has started construction, but news came out a couple of weeks ago that not one unit has been sold. Now the units I think are starting at 5 million. There's only 36 units to be built, so it's going from 5 million to 50 million, I guess. Like I said, it's a great location. And Surfside is very hot. I mean, you got Indian Creek across the street where Zuckerberg and Bezos and Tom Brady and all them bought. So it's just a hot building.
But how does that make you feel, or at least the children of some of the people that passed away, that there's a new luxury building there? Like,
it doesn't bother me. I knew it was going to happen. The building had to get sold. I mean, somebody was going to build on it. Surfside was not going to let nothing go on that building. There's tax revenue has got to get involved here.
Does it surprise you that not one has sold? Like, do you think people just think it's bad?
What actually surprised me in all that not one South Florida developer put a bid on it. Okay? Because sometimes developers will hold properties for 20 years. I mean, time cures all. They'll sell out. People in Asia will buy it. People in Dubai will buy it. I'm not surprised that, listen, every piece of property here on Brickell's got dead Indians on the ground. That may be 1,000 years old, but they're buried. So I'm not surprised that it hasn't sold yet. I would be surprised that it never sells.
Right.
That's for sure.
Wow. Okay, so you get this call from the president. Now you end up in Brickell.
Now I end up on Brickell.
How'd that happen?
I end up on Brickell because there's only two places I'm really looking. I'm looking at Midtown and I'm looking at Brickell. I like Midtown, but it's a problem with parking. I found a place at the Bond. My realtor found a place for me. I wanted to be in a place that was cement. And I knew a little bit about Brickell. I mean, I did advertising for restaurants down here, so I knew Brickell. And I knew it was up and coming. And it's a place where I could walk to. And I found a nice apartment. And I rented for a year. And I'm laying to fill now. And I'm out on the street with my realtor. And she says across the street, that's the rabbi from the Rock Shul. I go, really?
You had no idea there was even a shul in Brickell.
I knew because Mark Broomer had invited me to pass over Seders a couple of times. And Mark had invited me to sit with him for Rosh Hashanah Yom Kippur, his seats.
Wow.
So I went over to the rabbi and introduced myself to him. And the rabbi said, yeah, Mark told me that a survivor was going to be coming to shul. He said, maybe you should come also to morning services. Well, why you just got to come on Rosh Hashanah Yom Kippur? You're laying tefillin, come for services. It's 30 minutes. We start at 7:30. You'll be out by 8. Well,
7:30 turns to 7:45, turns to 8, turns to 8:30, then start till 9, whatever. What's your rush, Steve?
But that was the pitch.
Yeah, that's how he gets us
out 30 minutes.
30 minutes, check, in and out, no
So
problem.
for a long time, it was 7:30.
Right.
It would only be me and Steve.
Right.
That would be it.
Right.
So if it was just me and Steve, we'd be out by 8.
Right.
That was it. So I started to come to shul, and the rabbis are great, and it just, my whole world just changed. The Rock Shul was not my father's shul. It's not anybody's father's shul. It's young Jewish professionals. Where I always used to be the youngest person in the crowd, because I always used to hang out with older people. Now I'm the oldest person in the shul by a lot, okay? And it was just a great bunch of people. I mean, you know, it was just wonderful. The rabbis were wonderful. I'm going through, you know, all the court hearings at this time. They're still dealing with insurance. I'm buying furniture. The rabbis are with me every step of the way. Everybody is supporting me. It's just become a wonderful life for me, coming to shul every day. I didn't start coming to Shabbos for some reason or other. I don't know why. And Ellie pulls me up one day and he goes, you come to services every morning, but you don't come to Shabbos? What kind of mushagas is that? I said to myself, you know, he's right. You know, so I started coming to Shabbos. I didn't know anything about the Kiddush, that they gave out tequila and steaks and prime rib and vodka. I went, whoa.
Some would say rivers of vodka.
River, I mean, it's just a home run.
What about the psychedelics? I hear about some rumors about that.
No, I never heard anything about that.
I didn't hear about that either. No. I don't know what they're talking about.
And I didn't know about the parties on the rooftop or anything like that. Okay. But
quite the shul.
The shul was great. And
you made the craziest announcement I ever saw at the shul dinner a few years ago, 2 years ago. You're leaving your legacy to the shul?
Yes. So you know, I don't have any family or anybody to leave anything to, and I got a couple of shekels, and my apartment's paid for, and I got a nice apartment, paid all cash. And I said, well, who's it going to go to? If I don't give it to somebody, well, I'm going to DeSantis, the state's going to take it. I mean, you know, what's going on there? So I made the shul the beneficiary.
Wow.
All my IRA. Now, honestly, between me and you, I'm hoping to spend all that money before.
Do what you got to do. Throw a couple more kiddishes for us, all right? As long as you're throwing kiddishes.
But, you know, and hopefully I don't have to go into an assisted living facility or anything like that by the time I'm 95 or anything.
We're going
but
to keep
at this
doing
point
podcasts.
Right now, it's all, you know, the first thing the rabbi says to me when the tax bills come out, the shul, the Rock Shul, it's got Steve Rosenthal and the Rock Shul. So the rabbi wants to make sure I pay the tax bill on the property, otherwise he has to.
There you go.
So I got to tell him I paid the tax bill.
There you go.
Okay.
That's what the rabbis are worried about. Making
so everything is left to the shul, and that's my life now.
Wow.
And here I am sharing a lot with you, more than I thought I was going to do.
You know what, Steve? I see you every day. You're the first guy in shul. You're a fascinating guy, and I've heard all of these stories throughout the years from you. And you have a very fascinating life and an incredible journey, and there's a reason you ended up here. And like you're definitely a huge part of the community here. And you know, it's been so great just like getting to know you for the last 5 years living here and seeing each other every day. And so I know we did this video before. We got like, you know, a couple 100,000 views on that. Clearly your story resonates. People want to hear more. And I really just wanted to sit down and capture it, you know, just honestly for myself, for the world, because you're a special guy, and you're really a pleasure to have here, and we're so excited to have you part of the community. And it's like there's a reason you ended up here. I don't know what the reason is.
Well, thank you. And if there's one last thing I'd like to say, is that people always say it's a miracle that you survived all this, And when I was talking to a CNN or Wall Street reporter, I told her that I was a survivor of I'm a survivor, and I said that my parents are Holocaust survivors. So now my parents are survivors, and now I'm a survivor. She didn't believe me. She goes, I can't print this without getting proof. And she went to the Holocaust Museum in DC
Wow.
and got the administrator to verify that my parents were Holocaust survivors.
Wow.
And only then did she print my story that Steve, a survivor, is a child of Holocaust survivors.
Wild.
That's
so
my
Steve,
story.
If you have one piece of advice that you could leave for anyone, you've obviously been through a lot. If you only had one piece of advice that you could leave and share, what would that one piece be?
Have insurance.
Good.
Have insurance. I mean, if you're living in Florida, hurricane insurance, you need insurance. Let me tell you, those checks, and they weren't godsend. I got, they helped a lot because there were people, which blew me away, that didn't have any insurance.
Wow.
And I don't know what they did. I really don't know. And we had a lot of help, from a lot of people. The Shoreland Bell Harbor, the Catholic Church came through. We had community people, the community, get involved with the community. They all helped.
Yeah.
But having insurance, getting that check from the insurance company helped a lot.
You heard it here first. Get insurance, people. Steve, thank you.
Thank you.
This is great.
All right, perfect.